Hi, I'm raw chef Chaya, and I'm here with Living Tree Community Foods to share with you an amazing recipe for a coconut cream cheesecake. And first off, we want to make a crust. And the crust today that I'm going to be making is a coconut almond crust. I have 1 cup of shredded coconuts and 1 cup of raw almonds. If you would like to spend the time to soak and dehydrate your almonds, that's great. Otherwise, you can just use them raw as are. So we'll put those into our food processor. Along with that, I'm adding 6 medjool dates, 4 ounces weighed, but just 6 nice, soft, juicy medjool dates. All of these ingredients are from Living Tree Community Food. They're amazing, fresh, juicy, moist dates, and that moisture really helps to bring together the crust. Along with that, I'm going to be adding 1 teaspoon of Living Tree's vanilla powder. This is the whole vanilla bean ground down. It's a wonderful addition to any pie crust, filling, any drink. It's just a delicious pure vanilla bean. And along with that, I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of some sea salt. Here we have the mineral salt. It's pink, so you can see the minerals are in there. You can use a Himalayan salt, real salt, Celtic sea salt, something that's mineral rich. It will not only taste better, but it'll be so much better for your body. So once you have those ingredients in your food processor, we're going to start to get all of those broken down. We want to have a nice fine crust. I don't like it to be too chunky. I like to have all of my nuts pretty well broken down so it's one consistent texture and all of the flavors really meld together beautifully. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this on now. Once everything seems like it's come together, I often like to give my machine a little tilt and a rocking back and forth to help everything continually feed down into your S-blade. Again, you want to take this mixture and continue to break it down until some of that moisture is released from the almonds, also until those dates are really well broken up. That will allow the mixture to hold together as we would like it to in our cheesecake, or if you would choose to do a pie crust in the pie crust. So I'm going to keep this going a little while longer. Okay, and what we're looking for is a consistency that will hold together when you squeeze the mixture with your hands and break apart with a clean break. This is falling apart a little bit too easily for me. It would end up being quite a crumbly crust in your cheesecake or pie. So what I would do at this point is continue to blend it, continue to process it, and if it remains dry and crumbly, at that point I would add just a small amount of water. So I'm going to add just a little bit of water, probably a couple teaspoons, maybe a tablespoon at most, but just a small splash of water, and that's going to help to hold all of your ingredients together and create a really nice solid crust for you. Okay, that's looking excellent. I can see now that the crust is starting to hold itself together. So I'll just test this out again. It's holding together beautifully, breaking apart with a nice clean break, and it's not crumbling too easily. So that is the texture that I'm looking for. Now, at this point, I'm going to pull over my cheesecake pan, which I have already greased with some coconut oil. And I just want to show you here, when I put my springform pan together, normally in a baked cheesecake, you would have the lip facing up, but that's going to make it very difficult when it comes to serving your cheesecake. So what I'm doing is I'm turning it over so that that lip is facing down, and then I'm putting together my springform pan. Okay, that's beautiful. Now we'll just go ahead and flip the two together. So I'm bringing my food processor and my cheesecake pan together, dumping all of the ingredients in there, and pulling out that S-blade carefully. Now we want to create a nice even surface on the bottom. I love when I cut into my cheesecake and I can see a nice even level crust at the bottom. So what I'm doing here is I'm breaking apart any lumps that are in the crust, spreading it out evenly with a flat palm. So if you can See in there, all of the crust is loosely but evenly placed along the base of the springform pan. Now what I'm going to do is just go around the edge with my fingers, and I'm just pressing everything firmly down. This is going to create a nice even line on the outside of your cheesecake. And once I have that outside line pressed down, I'm going to go ahead and start pressing the center of the cheesecake crust down with a nice flat palm. And if your hands are feeling sticky, you're going to want to wash those with water and then dry it off really nicely in order that the crust doesn't stick to your fingers. If it starts coming up on your fingers, then you know that your hands are in need of a quick bath and a nice drying. And that will allow you to press your crust in cleanly. Okay, and it doesn't take much. You don't need to use tons of pressure. You do want to use enough pressure that the crust will hold together when you slice and serve, but not so much that it's going to stick into your pan. The best thing about doing your crust with that intention is that you'll have an easy time serving it, and sometimes raw foods can get messy when you serve them, or raw desserts specifically. Okay, so there's your crust. It's nicely pressed into your pan, and we will set that aside for the time being. Now on to our filling. Just have to plug in the machine here. And we're using an amazing new product from Living Free Community Foods. You can see it is the organic coconut cream with chia seed oil. So it has an amazing nutritional value. The essential fatty acids in chia seeds are phenomenal. But what I'm going to start with today is some Irish moss. So I'm going to give you a brief introduction in how you're preparing your Irish moss. When you buy it, it comes caked with salt and some sediment from harvesting. So you want to first run it under cold water and rinse off all of that sediment. Once it's rinsed off pretty well, you can rinse it in a bowl with cold water. Continually take that out and rinse it in more cold water until all the sediment has been released. And once you have a pretty nice clean Irish moss, you'll put that into a bowl with cold water, stick it in the refrigerator, and use it 24 hours later. That will provide for you a pretty consistent texture on your moss, and that's very important when working with it. So I do have a high-powered blender here today. If you don't have a high-powered blender, just cut the Irish moss out of your recipe. It'll still work, the texture will be a little bit different, but it'll still be really nice, so don't worry about that. If you do have a high-powered blender, Irish moss is an amazing food to work with. Not only does it add an incredible texture to your food, but it also is high in iodine. It's a seafood that is so high in minerals, like all sea vegetables are. So what I'm going to do is put 1 cup of water into my blender. And to that cup, I'm adding 1 ounce, this is a weighted ounce, of Irish moss. It's a small handful. If you don't have a scale, you can try that. It's definitely tricky when working with Irish moss. Weight is the best way to go from what I've experienced. And now we're going to do what's called an initial breakdown. I'm going to turn on the Vitamix and let this run until I have a paste in my machine. I don't want to have any little pieces of Irish moss left in there. I really want it to be a silky, creamy paste in order that it will give its gelatinous nature to the cheesecake that we're going to be making. Okay, so starting on low.